So today we move on to the seventh stanza. And this stanza mentions the miracle associated with Saint Cecilia, or rather, this poem as an ode for Saint Cecilia. This stanza exalts her, celebrates, and glorifies Saint Cecilia. Let's see, stanza 7. Orpheus could lead the savage race, and trees uprooted left their place, sequacious of the lyre. But bright Cecilia raised the wonder higher, when to her organ vocal breath was given. An angel heard and straight appeared, mistaking the earth for heaven. Okay, so the first line refers to a Greek poet named Orpheus. So you may learn the name Orpheus. He is a musician come poet in the Greek mythology. And the belief is that, or the mythological story is that, Orpheus was a musician whose music was able to charm not just human beings, but also animals, birds, and plants and trees as well. Okay, so the charm, the enchanting music that comes from the lyre of the musician called the Greek musician called Orpheus is mentioned here. Orpheus could lead the savage race, and trees uprooted left their place. Okay, listening to the music of Orpheus, listening to the music from the lyre of the Greek musician poet Orpheus, the trees uprooted and left their original place. Okay, probably to dance with the tune of the music from Orpheus. Okay, so such was the power of Orpheus's music. He was able to control, he was able to enchant everybody, including nature. Plants, trees, animals, and birds were mesmerized by the music of Orpheus. Orpheus could lead the savage race, and trees uprooted left their place sequacious of the lyre. Sequacious means controlled by, overpowered by. So trees, even trees, the heavy roots of trees were uprooted, and the trees started dancing, leaving their roots, okay, which they were controlled by, or they were overpowered by the mesmerizing music exuding from his lyre. Okay, so this was a reference to Orpheus. But on a greater level, the poet glorifies Saint Cecilia in the next few lines. But bright Cecilia raised the wonder higher. If Orpheus was able to mesmerize people and beings of the nature, Saint Cecilia was able to raise her wonders one step higher, because when to her organ vocal breath was given, an angel heard and straight appeared, mistaking the earth for heaven. So, what is the miracle associated with Saint Cecilia? While she gave vocal breath to her organ, meaning she played the organ's music, what happened? An angel heard the music, and such celestial and divine was her music that the angel mistook the place to be heaven. Okay, an angel appeared listening to her music, thinking that it was heaven, but then he understood that it was not heaven but earth. So the mortal Cecilia was able to invoke the appearance of an angel with her music, and this is the power of the music of Saint Cecilia. Okay, Orpheus is famously known for the enchanting power, mesmerizing power of his music, so that even trees uprooted themselves and followed him. But Saint Cecilia took it one step higher, and with her music, she was able to make even angels appear. Okay, so this is the miracle associated with Saint Cecilia. So here in this stanza is where the poet is glorifying the music of Saint Cecilia. Okay, so we are coming to the end of the poem. Now we can see the last stanza is given as a grand chorus. Okay, so if the particular poem is given a musical composition, then all the instruments, all the orchestra together will culminate into the grand chorus. Okay, it will be a highly orchestrated, highly flourishing music by the end of the song, and that is given as the grand chorus. Okay, and this particular stanza, the grand chorus, consummates the idea of the poem. Okay, so what was the beginning of the poem? At the beginning of the poem, we saw the overpowering ability, the ability of music to create the universe. How music was used as a weapon, or as a tool, rather, as a tool or equipment to create the universe. From harmony, from heavenly harmony, the universal frame began, and where nature was able to lift its head from the heap of jarring atoms, and God, like a magician, made the elements come from their respective places and go to their respective places. It was from heavenly harmony that the universe began. So the first stanza, we saw the biblical belief of creation of the universe, along with the Pythagorean theory of universe, the creation of universe. Now, there is a cyclical reference to this particular beginning, and so the poem ends cyclically, where the reference is to the end of the universe. If the universe was created with music, the universe will end in music. So again, here the poet draws the Christian belief of the end of the universe. We call it by the name apocalypse, the judgment day, or the second coming of Christ, like that, right? So this is the reference that we see in the grand chorus. So we'll read the poem and then we'll come to the explanation. Grand chorus. As from the power of sacred lays, the spheres began to move, and sung the great Creator's praise to all the blessed above. So when the last and dreadful hour this crumbling pageant shall devour, the trumpet shall be heard on high, the dead shall live, the living die, and music shall untune the sky. Okay, so there are a few references to be mentioned here. One is the Christian belief of the end of the universe via the judgment day of the second coming of Christ. Okay, so just like the universe was created with the power of music, the universe will come to an end with music. Okay, so Christians believe that just like Christ came to this earth, lived for 33 years, and then died at the cross, and Christians believe that he was resurrected. He is still living, and he is going to come as a ruler, as a king, to judge the world. That is what we call by the name Doomsday or Judgment Day, the second coming of Christ. And that will cause the end of the earth. Okay, so this second coming of Christ, Christians believe that it will happen with the trumpet sound. A trumpet will be sounded in the sky, and with that trumpet sound, Christ will come for a second time to take all the believers, all the the believers who are devoid of sin, who he saves them to heaven, and he keeps the sinners for the judgment and leaves them to hell. So this is the belief of Christians. So the trumpet will be heard on the eastern sky, and that will mark the beginning of the end of the universe, or the beginning of the judgment day. Okay, so this is the Christian belief. That is the reference here mentioned. As from the power of sacred lays, the spheres began to move. L-A-Y, lay, is a poem or a song. Okay, so as from the power of sacred music, as from the power of heavenly music, the spheres began to move. Sphere here refers to the sun, the planets. So the creation of the universe was from the power of music. The spheres, including the planets and the sun, were all created with the power of sacred music. Just like that, what will happen? The earth will come to an end with the power of music. As from the power of sacred lays, the spheres began to move, and sung the great Creator's praise to all the blessed above. All the nature praised the God creator, the creator God, uh, and who blessed the whole of the universe and created it. Just like that, so when the last and dreadful hour, this crumbling pageant shall devour. Okay, so when the last hour comes, when the end comes, it is going to be a dreadful hour, because Jesus is coming as a king to rule the world. And so at that time, he is going to separate the perfect people from the sinners, and his people will be taken to heaven, and the sinners will be given to hell. So this is going to be a dreadful hour, because it is going to be the judgment day. So when the last and dreadful hour comes, the crumbling pageant shall devour. Okay, pageant is a show. The grand show is going to be over. The grand show of earthly life is going to be over. The pageant of life in earth is going to crumble and get destroyed. Okay, so the last and the dreadful hour is going to devour upon, is going to swallow and destroy the earthly life. The grand show on earth of humans is going to be over, and that will be accompanied by the trumpet heard high on the sky. So the musical reference to trumpet is there, referring to the second coming of Christ. And then what will happen? The dead shall live, the living die, and music shall untune the sky. So what will happen? By the second coming of Christ, the trumpet will be heard, and the judgment will begin, and the sinners will be given to hell. And what will happen? The dead shall live. Okay, already for from time immemorial, so many people have died. They are resting in peace. They will all rise, and they will be allotted the heaven or hell. And again, the living will die. The earthly life will be over. Some will be taken to heaven. The selected few will be taken to heaven based on the good deeds that they do on the earth, and the others will be given to hell. And what will happen? The earthly life will come to an end, and music shall untune the sky. Okay, untune. Now, before any musical performance begins, the musician tunes his instrument. Take, for example, the violin or the veena or the guitar, for example. What do? They are all strings. They are all stringed instruments, and the strings on the instrument need to be tuned. Okay, sometimes after some time, the strings of the instrument may go loose, and if the instrument is not tuned, it will not give the proper scale. It will not give the proper notes. It will not be a smooth and good music. So what musician will do is he will tune his instrument. So after the tuning is done, then he can give the musical performance. So this is how every musician does. He will check his musical instrument, tune it properly, and then give out his music. So just like tuning is done before the beginning of the music, after the music is over, definitely the instrument will be kept away. It may lose its tune later. And before the next performance, the musician will again tune his instrument, make the notes correct, and then he'll give the musical performance. Just like that. So tuning, the opposite of tuning is untuning. So music is going to untune the sky, meaning the sky and the earth is going to pass away with the power of music, with the trumpet that is going to be assisted, that is going to assist the second coming of Christ. With the second coming of Christ and the trumpet that will be heard in the sky, music is going to untune the sky, meaning with the power of music, the earth will come to an end. So as the universe was created from musical harmony, once the last blare of the trumpet is heard, the universe will come to an end. So it is an unsettling process. The apocalypse, the end of the world is going to be an unsettling one. The living people will die, the dead people will come to life, and at that time, simultaneously, what will happen? Music will be untuning itself from heavens. So this shows the apocalypse from the Christian perspective. Okay, so with this, the poem ends. So what we learned today is the stanza 7 and the grand chorus. So stanza 7 actually makes a comparison between the terrestrial hero called Orpheus and the celestial hero called Saint Cecilia. Why is Orpheus a terrestrial hero? Orpheus was able to invoke, an enchantment and mesmerize people on the earth, people and inanimate and animate creatures of the nature. So it is on a terrestrial level. But Saint Cecilia, on a celestial level, she was able to invoke the appearance of an angel with her mesmerizing music. So in that stanza, we can see the miracle associated with Saint Cecilia, and that stanza glorifies the saint in question. Now, in the grand chorus, to give the poem a cyclical end or a cyclical connection, the reference is to the end of the universe, the apocalypse, the second coming of Christ, or the judgment day, or the doomsday. And there, the association is with music with the help of the trumpet, because in the Bible it is said that when Christ comes again, the trumpets will be heard on the higher skies. So music will untune itself from the skies, and it will be the end of the world. So in this way, the poem gets concluded, and if it's composed as a musical piece, the poem will end, or the song will end with the grand chorus with all the instruments flourishing. Okay, so this is the end of the poem, A Song for Saint Cecilia's Day, written by John Dryden. So I hope you have understood the session. If you have any doubts, please drop it in the chat box.